Hi, my name is Martin, and would like to follow up on these episodes with concentrating on a little bit different topic, and it's from Richard Rohr. Richard Rohr founded the Center for Action and Contemplation, and he covers a lot of different subjects at different stages through the year. And in this particular instance, it's beautiful because what it is taking the world around us, and it's entitled basically Listening to Creation. And Richard does not do all of the series himself, but he's given it off to other people that either work with him or philosophers or writers that he knows about. So in this particular instance, it is a woman by the name of Barbara Mahany, and she's writing of the converting experience the Book of Nature had on the Christian mystic, a Brother Lawrence. Sometimes when closely reading the Book of Nature, the profoundest of lessons are learned from the quietest, most mundane of happenstance. Suddenly, seeing what you may have walked past countless dozens of times, being awake to gospel in the plainest of wrappers, of naked tree, perhaps, a tree whose very nakedness suddenly offers aha. Brother Lawrence was born in 1611 and died about 1691. But the 17th century barefoot friar who found God in the pots and pans of his monastery kitchen in Paris told one such story. In his one published work, The Practice of the Presence of God, which is a collection of 14 letters, a wisp of an 80-page volume I once unearthed from library's musky archives, he wrote how a tree in winter, stripped of its leaves, played the pivotal role on uncanny conversion. She continues, it seemed the good brother absorbed the tree's stark emptiness, and in that way that the saints and wise souls do, he saw beyond it. He imagined the possible, which is so appropriate for us right now as we're just moving in this particular year from the deadness of winter to the beauty of spring. So trees that were dormant are now offering beautiful colors, and it's like all the beginnings of new life. So continuing, as is recording in his little book's preface, the soon-to-be friar stood before the naked tree, picturing its branches soon filled with tiny leaves as if clasped in prayer. And thus he was head-on. The surging sense of the immensity of the Holy One all but knocked him down, realizing the life force, the beautiful that would burst from the barren. In his little book preface, I was struck most of all by how strange it is that divine attributes can sometimes be seen in something so common, and how we'll miss if we refuse to be stopped in our tracks. Mahany describes some of the sermons offered by the Book of Nature. What are the sermons that the woods, those places of betweenness, repositories of ancient stories, might impart from the fretwork of branches and twigs? Their columnar trunks and the boughs that hold up the sky. Certainly there are tales of resilience. The way they stand against whatever time and the weather gods hurl their way. Tornado or drought, ice storm or Noah-like rains, and lessons to be learned of Holy Communion. The way the woods and the birds and the scampering critters all keep watch, share food, warn each other of danger, create ecosystems that moderate heat and cold, store water, and generate necessary humidity. What else are the time-tested truths laid down like the rings revealed in a fallen tree stump? My temple, my mosque, my church of the woods, where the central is earth rubbed raw, threadbare, not unlike a great aunt's mothballed Persian rugs, where the vaulted halls are awash in shifting shadow and numinous light, bathed in a mystical halo, is the holy places to which I return and return. It is the woods that preaches to me, fills me with wordless wisdoms. It is the place where I behold the awe-inspiring mystery of how I hope heaven will someday be. From the essay on the beauty of trees, I'd like to go to a different one in the same series, and it's entitled Formed by the Desert. And these are two people, Denny and Tessa Bielecki. They direct the Desert Foundation, an informal circle of friends who share a love for desert land, people, and spirituality. Bielecki first shares how she fell in love with the spaciousness of the desert. She says, "I grew up in New England, a countryside of lush green hills, singing streams, and verdant forests of oak and maple. In springtime, I picked bouquets of wildflowers, and in summer romped through the tall grasses full of daisies. When the trees turned crimson and gold in autumn, I gathered bundles of leaves and pressed them between the pages of my beloved books. In winter, I built bonfires, skated on the ponds, and went tobogganing down the steep hills. I first saw the vast, magnificent desert of the American Southwest in 1966, and have lived there since 1967. It was truly love at first sight, the most dramatic epiphany of my life. It felt like coming home to myself. I recognized the aridity and dew, heat, cold, and wind." St. Teresa of Avila, who grew to become my best friend, called the human soul an interior castle. "Let's not imagine that we are hollow inside," she wrote. "The soul is capable of much more than we can imagine. This infinite and noble spaciousness is what I learned from the desert." And David Denny, "The desert is not deserted," he says. "It can lead to peacemaking and a fullness of life. Peacemaking happens best when we develop a way of life that includes an understanding of desert spirituality. That is, in addition to being geography and spirit, the desert, as I'm fond of saying, has traditionally fostered hospitality, respect, and dialogue with the stranger. This spirit arises from various aspects of the desert: a freely chosen dedication to humility, interfaith dialogue, and simple, ecologically sustainable living. For so many people, the desert is a place to avoid, a place of banishment or grief, or simply useless and vacant. In English, when we say that a place is deserted, we usually mean that we find nothing significant there. But the Arabic verb ashara means to enter the desert willingly. For there, according to the Sacred Desert by David Jasper, if one knows where to look, there are springs and wells of water and places of life. That's why Isaiah 35, verse 1, so aptly describes the heart of the universal desert experience. The desert and the dry land will be glad. The wilderness will rejoice and blossom. So thank you for listening. It's two quite opposite viewpoints. One is how lovely what we have with all the wonderful trees around us. And for those that prefer the desert, there's so much beauty that is to be seen there if we look at it and have the ability to find it. I guess the only other topic would be talking about the beauty of oceans, lakes, rivers, and brooks, and what they can provide to the human spirit as well they do in so many different ways. I thank you for listening, and until the next time, take good care. Farewell.